Have you ever wondered why some people seem to attract wealth effortlessly while others struggle their entire lives? Even though they work twice as hard? It's not luck or background, it's alignment. Prosperity isn't something you chase. It's something you attract by who you become. The way you think, the words you speak, and the way you live all shape your reality. Today, let's explore 8 divine habits that can transform not just your finances, but your entire state of being. Because when your inner world shifts, your outer world begins to change. The first habit is to think rich before you are rich. Everything begins in the mind. If your thoughts are filled with lack, your life will mirror lack. But when you think abundance, life starts reflecting abundance. You can't plant seeds of poverty and expect to harvest prosperity. Start thinking like the person you wish to become. Ask yourself, what would the wealthy, peaceful version of me do right now? Because what you expect, you attract. The second habit is to speak rich words. Words are energy they create. When you say, I can't afford that, your brain shuts down possibility. But if you say, how can I afford that? Your mind starts looking for solutions. Speak life, not limitation. Say, I am blessed. Money flows to me easily. I deserve abundance. Speak it until it becomes your truth. The third habit is to live in gratitude. Gratitude turns ordinary moments into miracles. You can't receive more if you don't appreciate what you already have. Each morning, before checking your phone, whisper, thank you, God. Thank Him for your breath, your mind, your journey, even your struggles, because they're shaping your destiny. Gratitude invites grace. The fourth habit is to surround yourself with abundance energy. You can't grow roses in a garden full of weeds. If you're always around people who complain, fear, and doubt, that energy becomes yours. Surround yourself with people who talk about visions, not gossip. People who lift you up, not drag you down. Energy is contagious. Choose your circle wisely. The fifth habit is to give freely without fear. The poor-minded hoard. The rich-minded give. When you give your time, love, money, or help, you activate the law of circulation. Money, like blood, must flow to stay alive. Give with joy, because what leaves your hand never leaves your life. It returns multiplied. The sixth habit is to walk by faith, not by sight. Prosperity begins as belief, not evidence. Even when nothing seems to be working, trust the process. Faith is the currency of divine prosperity. When you walk by faith, unseen doors open and unseen hands move things in your favor. The seventh habit is to practice inner peace. A rich life without inner calm is still poverty. Silence is not empty. It's full of answers. Take moments each day to pray, meditate, and breathe. Disconnect from noise and reconnect with your soul. Wealth without peace is chaos, but peace turns wealth into harmony. The eighth and final habit is to live with purpose. Real prosperity isn't about having more. It's about becoming more. When you live for something greater than yourself, abundance naturally follows. Do what sets your soul on fire and serve others through it. The universe rewards purpose, not pressure. Here are some key points related to this. Your thoughts create your financial and spiritual reality. Words shape your destiny. Speak abundance, not limitation. Gratitude multiplies blessings. The company you keep determines your prosperity mindset. Giving keeps abundance flowing in your life. Faith, peace, and purpose are the true roots of divine wealth. It all begins in the mind. Every empire, every invention, every success story started as a single thought, fragile, invisible, and yet powerful enough to move mountains. The truth is, before you ever touch wealth with your hands, you must first hold it in your mind. That's where prosperity is born. The poor think money will change how they feel. The rich understand that how they feel will change their money. Thinking rich is not about arrogance or pretending. It's about aligning your thoughts with abundance, even when your surroundings still whisper lack. Imagine two people standing in the same field. One sees dirt, the other sees harvest. The field is the same, but their minds are worlds apart. That's the secret. Life doesn't give you what you deserve. It gives you what you expect. When you walk into a day expecting struggle, you'll notice every obstacle. But when you walk in expecting blessings, you'll begin to see opportunities where others only see problems. Thinking rich means reprogramming your mental lens to focus on possibility, not limitation. It's the art of saying, even if I don't see it yet, I know it's coming. There was a man who grew up in poverty, raised in a small home where bills were always overdue and arguments about money filled the air. He decided one day as a child that he would think differently. Instead of saying, we can't afford it, he began asking, how can I afford it? He didn't know it then, but he was rewiring his brain for prosperity. That boy became a millionaire years later. Not because of some miracle, but because he started thinking like one long before he had the money. He built a mindset that refused to surrender to circumstance. Henry Ford once said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. It sounds simple, almost too simple, yet it's the foundation of everything. When you think you can, your mind begins searching for ways to make it happen. When you think you can't, your mind shuts down and stops trying. The brain is like fertile soil. Whatever seeds you plant, it will grow. If you constantly plant thoughts of scarcity, I'll never get ahead, I'm not lucky, people like me can't succeed, your life will echo those beliefs. But if you plant thoughts of wealth, confidence, and worthiness, the harvest will surprise you. Thinking rich is also about emotional alignment. You can't think abundance while feeling unworthy. You must feel rich inside, rich in gratitude, rich in vision, rich in self-belief. Every time you visualize your future self, confident, free, thriving, you're sending a signal to the universe saying, this is who I am becoming. The mind doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. It simply obeys the images you feed it. That's why people who think rich begin to walk differently, talk differently, and even breathe differently. They start living as if abundance is already theirs. And in time, life has no choice but to match that vibration. So when you wake up tomorrow, before the world floods your mind with doubt and distraction, take a moment to create your wealth mentally. See yourself walking in abundance, handling money with ease, giving freely, living peacefully. Feel it, believe it, because the richest life you could ever live doesn't start when you have money. It starts the moment you begin to think like you already do. Words are not just sounds that fill the air, they are vibrations that shape reality. Every word you speak is like a seed thrown into the soil of the universe, and sooner or later, it grows into the life you live. Most people don't realize how powerful their speech truly is. They say things like, I'm broke, I never get lucky, or nothing ever works out for me, and then wonder why life keeps giving them proof of those very words. The truth is, your tongue is the steering wheel of your destiny. Wherever your words go, your life follows. Imagine your words as commands to a silent, obedient servant, your subconscious mind. It doesn't question or argue. It simply believes. When you say, I'm tired of struggling, it doesn't understand that you're expressing frustration. It hears an instruction, keep struggling. But when you say, I am blessed beyond measure, your mind begins searching for evidence to support that statement. You start noticing blessings you once ignored. It's not magic, it's awareness. The moment you shift your words, you shift your focus, and what you focus on expands. There's a story of a woman who used to constantly say, I hate Mondays. Every Sunday night, she'd start complaining, dreading the week ahead. She never realized that her words were building a pattern of misery. Then one day, she made a small change. She decided to start saying, I love Mondays, they're full of new opportunities. At first, it felt fake, even forced. But after a few weeks, something changed. Her energy lifted. She began noticing little things. A good conversation, a smile from a stranger, a sense of calm on her way to work. Her week didn't change. She did. That's the power of words. Napoleon Hill once said, think twice before you speak, because your words and influence will plant the seed of either success or failure in the mind of another. Every word has a vibration. It carries emotional energy that ripples through your mind and into your life. When you speak words of wealth, healing, and faith, you send waves of positive creation into motion. But when you speak from fear or frustration, you create more of what you're trying to escape. Your words can either build a palace or dig a pit. The choice is always yours. There's also something sacred about spoken declarations. When you say, I am, you're invoking divine creative power. Those two words, I am, are like keys to the universe. Whatever follows them becomes your reality. I am strong. I am abundant. I am worthy. Say them often, and they will begin to reprogram your self-image. You don't wait until you feel it. You speak it until you believe it. Words have the power to heal wounds that time cannot touch. They can revive hope where doubt once lived. They can summon strength in the middle of weakness. So begin to speak life over your dreams. Speak wealth over your work. Speak peace into your home. When you wake up, say, "Today I choose abundance." When fear whispers that you can't answer back, "I already have." Your voice is your vibration, and your vibration is your reality. Speak as if what you desire is already here, and soon the world will rearrange itself to match the words you've spoken. Gratitude is a quiet miracle that turns ordinary moments into treasures. It's the art of seeing blessings in disguise, of finding light even when the world feels dim. Most people believe prosperity begins when they have more, but the truth is, it begins when they appreciate what they already have. You can't attract abundance while resenting your present. Gratitude shifts your energy from lack to overflow, from fear to faith. It tells the universe, I see your gifts and I'm ready for more. The richest souls aren't those who own the most. They're the ones who recognize the most. There's a story of a man who spent years chasing success. He had dreams of wealth, travel, and recognition, but no matter how hard he worked, he always felt empty. One day, in a moment of exhaustion, he decided to list everything he was grateful for. Not big things, just simple ones. A warm bed, his child's laughter, the morning sunlight through the window. As he wrote, something shifted. Tears filled his eyes as he realized that he already had what he'd been searching for, peace. From that day, he began to notice how gratitude changed everything. His work felt lighter, his relationships deeper, and soon, success flowed naturally. Gratitude didn't give him new blessings. It opened his eyes to the ones he already had. The energy of gratitude is magnetic. When you start your day saying thank you, even before you open your eyes fully, you invite the day to unfold with grace. It's like tuning your heart to a higher frequency. The world may stay the same, but you perceive it differently. Where others see problems, you see lessons. Where others see delays, you see divine timing. Gratitude is not denial. It doesn't pretend life is perfect. It simply acknowledges that even within imperfection, there is beauty. A woman once told me she practiced gratitude every morning during the hardest season of her life. She was battling illness, facing financial struggles, and yet every day she would whisper, "Thank you for another sunrise." She said it not because her circumstances were easy, but because she refused to let pain define her. Over time, her health began to improve, opportunities appeared, and her peace returned. When I asked her how she managed to stay hopeful, she smiled and said, "Gratitude kept my heart alive when everything else was falling apart." That's the quiet power of a grateful spirit. It doesn't change life overnight, but it changes you and then life follows. The late Maya Angelou once said, "Let gratitude be the pillow upon which you kneel to say your nightly prayer." Gratitude grounds you. It humbles you. It reminds you that you are already living in the middle of answered prayers. Think about it. There was a time you longed for what you have now. The job you prayed for, the roof over your head, the people you love. They're all proof that blessings exist, even if you sometimes forget. When you remember to give thanks for small things, big things begin to unfold naturally. Gratitude doesn't just make you happier. It makes you magnetic to miracles. Because when you stop focusing on what's missing and start celebrating what's present, the universe can finally trust you with more. Energy is contagious. Whether you realize it or not, the people around you are constantly shaping your mood, your mindset, and even your destiny. You can't rise to prosperity while being surrounded by voices that pull you back into fear, doubt, and limitation. The company you keep is like the soil your roots grow in. It either nourishes your dreams or poisons them. You can have the greatest potential in the world, but if you plant yourself in toxic energy, your growth will wither. That's why surrounding yourself with abundance energy is not a luxury. It's a necessity for your soul. Imagine a candle burning brightly in a dark room. If you place that candle among other flames, its light grows stronger, its warmth amplified. But if you place it in a cold wind, the flame flickers and eventually dies. The same happens with your spirit. If you spend time with people who speak life, dream big, and radiate joy, your inner fire grows. But if you're constantly surrounded by negativity, gossip, or scarcity talk, your light begins to dim. The environment you choose determines how brightly you shine. There was once a young musician who had talent, but no confidence. Every time he shared his dreams, his friends laughed and told him to be realistic. Their words became like weights tied to his wings. One day, tired of feeling small, he joined a local creative group filled with artists and dreamers who spoke about vision and possibility. For the first time, he felt understood. He noticed how their conversations inspired him, how their energy made him believe in himself again. Within months, he wrote his first album, not because his talent had changed, but because his environment had. That's the power of abundant circles. Jim Rohn famously said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." Those words are a mirror reflecting your future. If you surround yourself with people who constantly complain about life, money, and others, that vibration seeps into your thoughts. You start to see lack where there is plenty. But when you surround yourself with people who speak about purpose, growth, and gratitude, your energy naturally elevates. You begin to think differently, speak differently, and act differently. Without realizing it, you start to match the frequency of abundance. Sometimes, the hardest part of growth is outgrowing people you once loved. It's painful to realize that certain friendships no longer align with who you're becoming. But remember, letting go doesn't mean rejection. It means redirection. You're not abandoning them. You're choosing your peace. You're choosing your energy. You're choosing your future. Protecting your energy is not selfish. It's sacred work. Think of your mind as a garden. The people you allow in are either watering your flowers or planting weeds. Choose those who help your spirit bloom, who remind you of your worth when you forget, who see light in you even when you're standing in shadow. Because when you fill your circle with love, optimism, and faith, abundance becomes a natural rhythm of your life. You no longer have to chase prosperity. You'll simply reflect it. There's a law in the universe that is older than money itself, the law of giving. Every time you give, you create a ripple that eventually circles back to you in ways you could never predict. The poor-minded hoard because they fear loss. The rich-minded give because they understand flow. True prosperity doesn't come from what you hold on to. It comes from what you release with faith. When you give, you tell the universe, "I trust there is more where that came from." That single belief is what separates scarcity from abundance. Imagine money as a river. When it flows freely, it nourishes everything in its path. But if you try to block it, to keep it all to yourself, it becomes stagnant and lifeless. Giving keeps that river alive. It keeps your heart open, your energy moving, your blessings circulating. You don't need to give millions. Even a kind word, a helping hand, or a moment of your time carries the same divine energy. It's not the size of the gift. It's the intention behind it. There's a story of a woman who was barely making ends meet. Every month, she struggled to pay her bills, yet she made it a point to set aside a small amount to help others. Sometimes buying groceries for a neighbor, sometimes donating a few coins at the temple. Her friends called her foolish, but she kept giving anyway. Months later, an unexpected opportunity arrived. A job offer that paid double her old salary. She didn't connect it to her giving, but something inside her knew. Her generosity had opened the door. She had kept her energy flowing, and life rewarded her faith. The universe mirrors your mindset. When you give out of fear, you send a signal of lack. But when you give out of love, you signal abundance. Even nature understands this law. Trees don't hoard their fruit. Rivers don't hold their water. Everything in creation gives freely, knowing that what is given will return in another form. The ocean never fears running dry, because it trusts in the cycle of rain. Likewise, when you give, you align yourself with that same divine rhythm of renewal. There's a saying that a closed fist cannot receive. Many people pray for abundance while clinging tightly to what they have, unwilling to release anything. But when you loosen your grip, you create space for something greater to enter. Giving is not about losing. It's about trusting. It's about believing that you are part of a bigger flow, one that never runs out. Even small acts of generosity can shift your energy instantly. Buy someone a meal without expecting thanks. Compliment someone sincerely. Share knowledge that can uplift another soul. Every act of giving is a declaration that you have enough, that you are enough. When you give with joy, without keeping score, you enter the realm of divine circulation. Prosperity becomes effortless because your heart and your energy remain open. You become a vessel through which blessings flow, and what flows through you always returns multiplied. Faith is the unseen bridge between where you are and where you're meant to be. It's walking through the fog, trusting that each step will appear when it's time. Most people want to see before they believe, but divine prosperity works in reverse. You believe first, and then you see. Faith is the invisible currency that buys the impossible. It's not blind hope. It's an inner knowing that even when nothing seems to be working, something greater is aligning behind the scenes. It's choosing to trust the process when every voice around you says, "Give up." There was once a man who dreamed of starting his own business. He had no investors, no fancy degree, and barely enough money to pay rent. Yet every night, he would close his eyes and thank God for the success that hadn't arrived yet. He would imagine customers, imagine growth, imagine freedom. People called him delusional, but he called it faith. For months, nothing happened. Doors closed, plans failed, opportunities vanished. But he kept walking by faith, not by sight. Then one day, a chance meeting changed everything. A conversation that led to a partnership that transformed his entire life. When people asked how he stayed so certain, he smiled and said, "I already saw it in my spirit before I saw it in my hands." That is faith. Faith is not about pretending your circumstances don't exist. It's about refusing to let them define you. It's standing in the middle of a storm and saying, "I may not see the sun, but I know it's still there." Life tests faith because faith without challenge is just theory. The delays, the detours, the disappointments, they're not signs that you're off track. They're the gym where your spiritual strength is built. Every moment that you choose to believe when it's easier to doubt, you grow. Every time you trust when it doesn't make sense, you expand your capacity for miracles. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "Faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase." That's the essence of divine prosperity. You don't need to know how everything will unfold. You just need to trust that it will. The universe responds to movement. When you act in faith, you tell creation, "I'm ready." And the moment you move, unseen forces begin rearranging everything in your favor. The timing, the people, the resources, they start aligning with the vibration of your belief. There's something magnetic about a person who walks in faith. They carry a quiet confidence, an unshakable peace. They no longer chase. They attract. Because faith doesn't beg, it knows. Faith doesn't panic. It rests. When you live with that kind of trust, fear loses its grip. The world may call it madness, but heaven calls it alignment. So even when the road looks uncertain, walk it anyway. Even when your dreams seem delayed, believe anyway. Because the universe does not reward doubt, it rewards faith. And sometimes the greatest act of wealth creation isn't working harder, it's believing deeper. Faith turns waiting into preparation, struggle into strength, and unseen dreams into undeniable reality. So now you know. Prosperity was never outside of you. It was never hidden in a paycheck, a title, or a lucky break. It's been within you all along, waiting, whispering, calling you to rise. You were never meant to live in scarcity. You were designed to overflow. But to overflow, you must first believe, then speak, then live as if it's already yours. Think rich, even when your circumstances tell you otherwise. Speak rich, even when your voice shakes. Live rich, even when the world doesn't yet see your worth. Because every thought, every word, every action is building your future in this very moment. The life you desire isn't waiting for the perfect timing. It's waiting for your decision. Decide today that you will no longer think like the broken version of you. Decide that from this moment forward, your energy will match your destiny. Stop waiting for signs. You are the sign. Stop waiting for miracles. You are the miracle. Stop waiting for permission. You were born with purpose. There's power inside you that's been sleeping beneath fear and doubt, and it's time to wake it up. You have walked in shadows long enough. Now step into the light of abundance that was always meant for you. So when you leave here today, carry one truth in your heart. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. Think rich. Speak rich. Live rich. Your support means everything. If this resonated with you, please share and subscribe. Because when your mind, your words, and your spirit align with abundance, the universe has no choice but to agree. Thank you for being here. See you in the next one.